Tangled in Tulum Part 2. Chapter 7, Touched by a Ghost. The sky was bruised with sunset when Lana found him. Nico stood alone on the beach just north of the old Mayan ruins, barefoot, hands in his pockets, the ocean lapping at his ankles like a dog that belonged only to him. He didn't look like a billionaire tonight. He looked like a man haunted. Lana hesitated at the edge of the dune. She could leave. He hadn't seen her yet. She could turn around and disappear into the jungle, pretend today never happened, pretend she hadn't uncovered a truth that cracked open the floor beneath her moral pedestal. But she didn't. She walked toward him, the sand cool beneath her feet, her heart beating like a war drum. He turned before she spoke. His face was unreadable, lit by the dying light, framed by wind and salt and the kind of silence that only happens after storms. "I went to Fundación Almadel Jaguar," she said, straight to the point. "I know." He didn't respond right away. Didn't feign confusion. Didn't deny it. He just nodded, slow. Of course he did. Because he knew she'd eventually find it. "You were never going to tell me?" she asked, voice gentler than she meant it to be. "I didn't want it used against me," he said simply. "People hear the word legacy and turn it into PR. My mother deserved more than that." Lana moved closer, just a few feet from him now. The wind tangled her hair around her cheeks, but she didn't reach up to fix it. She let the chaos frame her. "I read everything she ever published," she said. "She's the reason I came to Tulum." Something flickered in his eyes, pain, surprise, maybe gratitude. "She would have liked you," he said softly. Lana almost smiled. Almost. But there was too much between them now. Too many thorns wrapped in vines of longing. "Why didn't you lead with that?" she asked. "Why come in like a wrecking ball when you were really trying to save what she loved?" Nico looked out at the water. "Because the board doesn't care about sacred land or spiritual harmony. They care about return on investment. If I told them I was buying back the jungle for sentimental reasons, I'd be out and someone worse would take my place. Someone with no interest in foundations or wildlife." She was silent. He looked back at her. "I'm not your enemy, Lana. I never was." She didn't answer right away. Because part of her still wanted him to be. It was easier that way. Easier to hate him. Easier to stay on the moral high ground, barefoot and righteous. But something had shifted. The man she'd painted as her personal apocalypse, was also the boy who had loved his mother enough to build a secret foundation in her name. "Everything I thought about you," she began, "is probably true," he interrupted, almost smiling. "I am arrogant. I do bulldoze things. I fly private. I own 3 homes I rarely visit. But this? Tulum? My mother's land? I'm not here to destroy it. I'm here to protect it from people worse than me." Lana stared at him. And something inside her, something ancient and wounded, softened. Not surrendered. But softened. "You're still going to build the resort," she said. He nodded. "Not the casino. That's dead. But yes, something sustainable. Controlled. With local ownership. With protected corridors for the jaguars. No plastic. No chain restaurants. My mother's vision. And yours, too, I think." She bit her lip. "You don't get to steal my sanctuary and then invite me to co-sign your redemption arc." His smile dropped. "I'm not asking you to." Silence stretched between them. Then she took a step closer, heart thudding. "She would have been proud of you," Lana said, her voice breaking slightly. "And for what it's worth, I think I would have been too." He blinked. The tension between them felt like a wire pulled tight, ready to snap, or sing. He reached out, brushed a strand of hair from her face, and left his fingers there a moment too long. "She's still with me," he murmured. "Every time I walk this beach. Every time I fight with you." Lana swallowed hard. I can feel her, too. And in that moment, they weren't enemies. They weren't even lovers. They were two people bound by the same ghost. The moon rose behind them. And neither of them moved. Because sometimes, the past doesn't just haunt. Sometimes, it heals. Chapter 8, Coconut Oil and Confessions. It started with a knot in Lana's shoulder. Or maybe in her heart. She couldn't tell any more. By the time the sun dipped below the horizon and painted Tulum in warm amber light, Lana was stretched out on the wooden platform of her retreat's open-air pavilion, back against the mat, arms draped over her head, and a sharp ache blooming just beneath her right shoulder blade. A week of stress, shouting, betrayal, and unexpected kisses had turned her body into one tight, pulsing knot of tension. She hadn't expected company. Certainly not him. But as the wind rustled through the palm trees and the smell of lemongrass and incense rose around her, she heard his voice, soft and teasing. You look like you're preparing for battle. Her eyes snapped open. Nico Delgado. Barefoot, shirt rolled at the elbows, a bottle of coconut oil in one hand, a towel draped over the other. She blinked. What are you doing here? He shrugged, stepping onto the platform. Maya told me you were running yourself into the ground. Said you'd never ask for help. She sat up, suspicious. So you decided to come rub me down with oil like some kind of tropical assassin? He laughed a low, honest sound. No. I came to talk. She eyed the bottle. With your hands. He smirked. Think of it as diplomacy. Besides, you helped loosen something in me. Maybe I can return the favor. She hesitated. Everything in her screamed this was a bad idea. But her body whispered yes. She lay back down. 10 minutes, she said. Then you go back to your glass fortress and leave me in peace. Deal? He knelt beside her, warm hands hovering for a second over her back before lowering, slow and intentional, onto her bare shoulders. The touch wasn't professional. It was personal. Her breath hitched as his fingers slid over the tight muscle along her spine, working into the places no one else ever touched, not out of fear, but because they didn't see her long enough to care. Nico saw everything. You carry a lot right here, he murmured. She exhaled slowly. It's where I store my rage. He laughed, fingertips gliding lower. You've got enough for a small country. Or one smug billionaire. He didn't argue. Just kept moving. Oil warmed under his palms, slick and fragrant with vanilla and jungle heat. Silence stretched between them, thick and charged, until he spoke again. I never told you what really happened with my mother, he said, voice softer now. Why I built the foundation. Why I hide it. Lana kept still. I was 18. Fresh into business school. Thought the world would kneel at my feet. She asked me to come home for a protest. Developers were clearing a sanctuary near Cancun. She was furious. Said they were bribing locals. That someone needed to stand up. And you didn't go. Lana guessed. He shook his head. I told her I had finals. That I'd catch the next fight. 3 days later, she was gone. Heat stroke. Overexhaustion. Alone in a jungle she refused to abandon. Lana turned her head slightly. His face was unreadable. Shadowed by guilt. Lit by the golden hush of twilight. I never forgave myself, he whispered. And just like that, the wall between them cracked. Not all the way. But enough. She reached up and touched his wrist, stopping the massage. Their eyes met. She sat up slowly, their faces inches apart now. Her hair tangled over one shoulder, the oil catching the light on her skin. You think saving this land will bring her back? She asked. No, he said, voice low. But maybe it'll bring me back to who I was supposed to be. And then. She kissed him. Not like the moonlit beach kiss, full of confusion and tequila-soaked temptation. This one was deliberate. A surrender. A confession of its own. Their mouths moved in rhythm, urgent, searching, aching. His hands found her waist. Her fingers curled in his hair. They tumbled onto the mat like two storms colliding. Heat. Skin. Breath. It didn't matter that she wasn't supposed to want him. It didn't matter that she had vowed never to fall for the villain. Because in that moment, there was no villain. Just two broken people tangled in truth, grief, and need. When it was over, they lay in silence, hearts racing, sweat cooling on their skin. She turned to him, still breathless. "This doesn't change anything," she said. "Of course not," he murmured, brushing her hair back. "But it changed everything." Outside, the jungle hummed. And in the distance, thunder rolled. Because they had crossed a line. And nothing would ever be the same. Chapter 9, Caught in the Fire Ritual. Tulum burned with magic that night. The fire ritual was the most sacred ceremony of the retreat season, a night of cleansing, renewal, and release. Guests and locals gathered barefoot in a wide circle under the stars, draped in gauzy fabrics and flower crowns, the scent of copal smoke thick in the air. It was a night to cast what no longer served into the flames. But Lana Cruz wasn't feeling particularly light. Because just a few hours earlier, she'd crossed a line. A slick, sweet, coconut oil-coated line. And the memory of Nico Delgado's mouth on her skin wouldn't stop replaying in her mind like a dangerous prayer. "This doesn't change anything," she'd said. But it did. And now, beneath the ceremonial canopy of vines and stars, she felt like a fraud. She stood near the fire pit in a white wrap dress, her hands clasped, her pulse still not steady. Around her, women wept into silk scarves. A shaman chanted to the rhythm of drums. People tossed dried herbs into the blaze, fears scribbled on paper, names they needed to forget, regrets they were ready to burn. Lana tried to breathe. To be present. But all she could feel was his presence. She hadn't expected him to come tonight. Yet there he was. On the far edge of the circle, in loose black linen pants and a white shirt open to the chest, barefoot like the rest of them, holding a sprig of rosemary like he belonged. Damn him! He caught her gaze across the fire, and the world spun slower for a heartbeat. And that's when the flash went off. Click! A bright burst from a phone. Someone gasped. A few turned. Lana didn't. Because she already knew who it was. Selene. The retreat's resident influencer. The self-proclaimed goddess coach. A woman whose brand depended on being adjacent to Lana's. Who had always resented that Lana didn't need filters to be worshipped. Selene stood just beyond the circle, wearing a too-sheer dress and too much lip gloss, phone still raised, her expression twisted with glee. She had seen them earlier that day. At the pavilion. Touching. Kissing. And she had caught it on camera. Lana's stomach dropped. Selene's voice sliced through the drums like a blade. Some of us burn our demons. Others sleep with theirs. The circle froze. The drumming stopped. The fire crackled. All eyes turned to Lana. Lana didn't move. Didn't blink. She heard her name whispered by at least 4 different guests, felt the judgment roll over her like hot wind. Camila was there, 2 arms crossed, expression unreadable, but no longer soft. The shame rushed up Lana's spine like fire. Nico stepped forward, slowly, but Lana raised her hand, stopping him. She would not be protected by a man. She walked toward Selene. "Delete it." Selene smirked. "You mean the video of you and your investor co-creating the divine masculine?" Lana's fists clenched. The fire roared behind her, casting her in gold and shadow. "I opened this retreat so women could heal without shame," she said, voice even but steely. "Not to be crucified by one who profits off their wounds." Selene laughed. "And what are you, Lana? A priestess? A brand? Or just another girl who can't resist power in a tailored suit?" Gasps. Even Nico flinched. But Lana didn't. She stepped closer until she and Selene were nearly touching. "I'm a woman who forgot she didn't need to explain herself," she said. "Thanks for the reminder." She turned her back deliberately and walked into the fire circle. She picked up a piece of handmade paper, scribbled something furiously onto it, and threw it into the blaze. Ash burst upward like feathers. The drums started again, one, then two, then all. And slowly, people returned to the circle. One by one. Not everyone. But enough. Lana stood, spine straight, chin high. But inside, something had cracked. Because no matter how grounded she pretended to be, no matter how strong her voice sounded under moonlight, she had been exposed. And worse. It had felt good before it all fell apart. As the crowd dispersed, Nico approached her cautiously. "Lana. Don't," she said quietly. "Not here. Not now." He stepped back. And for once, he looked like the one without the power. Later, alone in her bungalow, Lana sat on the edge of her bed and stared at the phone in her hands. Notifications. Mentions. DMS. The kiss had gone viral. She was no longer a symbol of sacred retreat. She was a headline. A scandal. And in her soul, something shifted. Not from shame. From realization. She had reached the line between who she was and who she was becoming. And she couldn't go back. Chapter 10, Cancel the Guru. The jungle had never felt this loud. Crickets shrieked like sirens. Birds cried out like accusations. The wind rustled through the palms with a bite Lana had never noticed before. Even the sun felt harsh, as if the whole universe had joined in the echo chamber of betrayal that followed her everywhere since the kiss. Or rather, since the video. One grainy, stolen clip of her tangled in Nico Delgado's arms, her lips on his hands definitely not in any sacred placement, broadcast out into the world in 15 seconds of kombucha-fueled shame. And now? The spiritual world had turned. By sunrise, the hashtags were brutal. Hashtag goddess gone greedy. Hashtag lust overland. Hashtag sacred sellout. Hashtag fake guru. Her DMs were flooded with venom wrapped in faux spirituality. "So disappointed, sister. You were a light for so many. Now just another girl seduced by capitalism. You preached about integrity. You let him buy your silence." She stared at her phone in disbelief. Her hands trembled. Her inbox bled betrayal from all corners of the internet, former clients, collaborators, even brands who once begged her for partnerships. The sacred circle had closed and she was no longer inside it. Her online course platform sent a sterile email. "Due to recent controversies and brand misalignment, we've temporarily suspended your account." Her landlord for the yoga space in town texted next. "Sorry, Lana. Pressure from other tenants. I can't risk the media circus. We have to part ways." Even the tea brand she'd co-founded unfollowed her. Lana Cruz, barefoot empress of Tulum's healing elite, had been cancelled. And she hadn't even made a statement yet. By noon, she sat alone in her bungalow, cross-legged but far from centered. She stared at her altar. The candles were melted into puddles. Her meditation bowl had cracked. Her mala beads were knotted. And she could feel it rising hot, ugly, unspiritual. Fury. Not just at Selene. But at herself. Because the truth was, she had wanted it. The kiss. The heat. The danger. She hadn't stumbled into Nico's arms. She had dove. And now, she was drowning in the fallout. The knock on the door wasn't loud, but it split through her like lightning. She opened it already knowing. There he was. Nico Delgado, in a loose white shirt, the sleeves rolled up, his jaw shadowed in stubble, his expression soft. Careful. As if she were a bird made of bruises. "I heard what happened," he said quietly. She didn't speak. He held up a small brown envelope. An NDA-free offer, he said. I spoke to my PR team. They can run point, clean this up. Or we spin it. Rebrand you. Reclaim the story. Lana stared at him like he'd slapped her. You want me to rebrand my trauma? He exhaled, stepped closer. I'm not trying to profit from your pain. I'm trying to help you survive it. Her laugh was sharp and dry. Easy for you to say. You're still the golden boy. They think I slept with you to sell my jungle. They think I'm just another pretty face in warrior pose. That's not what I think. I don't care what you think, Nico. The silence after that rang in her ears. He didn't flinch. Just studied her. I can fix this, he said softly. No, she snapped, chest heaving. You can't fix this. You can't fix me. And I'm not your damn legacy project. He looked away. And for the first time since she met him, Nico Delgado looked wounded. She hated how it made her heart ache. I'm offering help, he said finally. Not control. And I'm saying no, she said. Because if I let you fix it, I'll never know if I could have saved myself. He nodded slowly, like he understood. But before he left, he placed the envelope on the table near her altar. Just in case, he murmured. And then he was gone. Lana sat in the silence after, alone with the smoke of too many burned bridges. Her empire was in ashes. Her heart was cracked. But something in her spine refused to snap. Maybe they could cancel her online. But they hadn't buried her yet. Chapter 11, The Jungle Hides Nothing. It wasn't just a storm. It was an omen. The jungle didn't whisper that day, it screamed. The sky cracked open in sheets of rage, and the trees bent like servants in prayer. Thunder rolled through Tulum like a warning from the gods themselves. Locals rushed to board up shops. Retreat guests hid inside linen cabanas, their mantras drowned out by wind. But Lana Cruz? She was already deep in the jungle. Alone. Or so she thought. She had hiked out to the cacao fields, her secret place. A patch of green and gold tucked between sacred trees, where the jungle's breath was thick and sweet, and time moved like honey. It was where she used to go when she needed clarity. Where she spoke to her ancestors. Where the jungle whispered back. But this time, the jungle had other plans. The rain came hard and sudden. It drenched her in seconds, soaking through her gauzy wrap dress, her sandals sliding in the mud. The trail back to the main road disappeared under a flood of brown water. Her phone had no signal. The thunder cracked again, closer this time. And then, through the downpour, a voice. Lana. She turned, heart thudding. And there he was, emerging from the trees like some kind of myth. Nico Delgado, soaked to the skin, shirt clinging to every sculpted line of his chest, hair slicked back, his eyes wild with rain and worry. What are you doing out here? He shouted. I could ask you the same thing. He held up his arms. I came looking for you. Maya said you'd come this way before the storm broke. Lana blinked, stunned. Why? He took a step closer. You disappeared. Your bungalow was empty. You weren't at the center. You've been gone for hours. And he paused, rainwater dripping from his jaw. I was worried. Their eyes locked. The jungle howled. And she didn't know what made less sense, his presence, or the way her heart leapt toward it like a traitor. They had no choice but to take shelter. A half-built jungle cabana, one of the prototype huts Nico's team had started testing for his eco-luxury resort, sat just up the hill. Canvas roof. No doors. No walls. But it was something. They scrambled inside, soaked and shivering, lightning flickering behind them like paparazzi flashes from the gods. Lana dropped to her knees, breath heaving. Her dress clung to her like second skin, transparent in all the wrong places. Nico turned away, trying to be respectful but failing. You're soaked, he said. Come here. She didn't move. Lana. Don't. But she was already shaking. And he was already moving toward her. He peeled off his drenched shirt and wrapped it around her shoulders, then pulled the edge of a dusty linen tarp down from the cabana roof to swaddle them both. They huddled together, side by side, wet and steaming and silent. The storm roared around them. And in that wild, breathless space, the jungle stripped away their defenses. I was scared, he said suddenly. She looked up at him. Of the storm. He shook his head. Of what it means, that I care what you think of me. She froze. He went on, his voice low and raw. I built a wall after my mother died. Brick by brick. Business, power, armor. And then you walked in barefoot and cracked the whole thing open with a glance. Lana stared at him, her throat tight. I should hate you, she whispered. I know. You ruined my name. You ruined my brand. I know. And I still want you. Silence. Then his voice hoarse, desperate. Then take me. And this time, it wasn't passion. It was something deeper. They kissed not with the urgency of last time, but with grief and reverence. With the ache of two people who didn't know how to fix the world, but had found something real in the wreckage of their choices. Her hands tangled in his hair. His lips moved down her throat. They held each other like two survivors in a storm they'd summoned themselves. They didn't undress. They didn't need to. Their souls were already naked. Hours passed before the rain faded into a hush. They lay tangled under the canvas tarp, wrapped in stolen heat and soaked linen. He spoke first. Lana. But before he could finish, she whispered. Don't make promises in the dark. He pulled her closer. Then I'll wait until morning. But deep in the jungle, as the sky cleared and the wind died, something had shifted. The storm hadn't just flooded the forest. It had washed them into something dangerous. And the jungle? The jungle had seen everything. That's the end of this part, but trust me, the next one is even more thrilling. We drop fresh episodes every day, so don't miss out. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Thanks for listening to Billionaire Romance Stories, where love meets luxury in the most unexpected places. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. We love hearing your favorite twists and favorite theories. And don't forget to ring that bell, because in this world of yachts, secrets, and luxurious romance, the next story is always one click away.